Welcome to another live stream. It's our time to get together. Hopefully, you guys are having a good weekend. And of course, I'll ramble on for a while. Looks like we got one person on there already. Let's see who it is. Hopefully, it's a moderator. Oh gosh, what's wrong with these? Harlot Top. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll get some moderators, and hopefully the perps, they won't show up. But we've got one person in here. If nothing else, it'll be me and you hanging out. Yeah. As I always mention, I like to do these on the weekend, if nothing else, because target individuals deal with a lot of isolation and deprivation. And it's important that we can get together. I remember when I started to experience gangstalking, it was just so lonely, and I had no idea that there were other people out there. And that's one of the blessings of the technology and the online capability that we have now, is that we can get together, and targeted individuals are pretty sparse. They're sparsely populated through the earth. And there's a lot of speculation as to, how many people there are that are really dealing with this stuff and how many people know. And it's interesting, but, the thing that I always emphasize is this just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if there were a lot of people experiencing it. It would just, it would cave the whole process in. And as the title, Orchestra of Obfuscation, gangstalking is hidden to a lot of people. I've mentioned before, there are people who know. There are a lot of people who know about gangstalking. It wouldn't work unless they did. Okay, there are a lot of people who are just little compartmentalized puppets. And the orchestrated menagerie that is out there, it involves a lot. Okay, it involves a lot of different things. People who are getting paid, people who are being manipulated, people who are just following the indoctrinated social dynamics of their framework of the world. And there's always the government programs and the occult and all that kind of weird stuff. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of people who are just literally being, moved around like little puppets. They're being manipulated. And, the truth about our existence, we were created by God, and we're here for a little while. And ultimately, the Lord's going to return, and that's our ultimate hope. It's not to say that we can't have vindication in the meantime, and I pray for that every day, multiple times, for me and all the target individuals that are out there, because it sucks. It really does. Dealing with all the isolation and the deprivation and the injustice of this whole ordeal that you've been exposed to and that you're dealing with. And it seems like everybody else just kind of floating through life, and there you are, stressed out, and you're dealing with all this stuff. And you either look crazy or, you look like you're on drugs or whatever, but it's real. And if I was to say anything right away, I would say, if you're a targeted individual and you just found out that you're one of us, or you're one of the targeted, it's not always going to be so crazy that you just feel like ending your life. It does feel like you're going to lose your mind sometimes, but there are times of refreshing, and I've talked about that before. That you want to draw near to God and seek Him for relief, and you're gonna find that peace that surpasses all understanding. And I pray for all targets out there, even right now, that during this live stream that you would experience that, and that you would be distracted in a good way from whatever it is that's bothering you or driving you crazy. And I've mentioned before that as a targeted individual, it's a good, it's a good time for you to try to improve your knowledge, not only about your financial life, about health, about the Word of God, but about gangstalking. And I want to try to provide good information and a safe place for people to get together and talk about this. But it's your ultimate hope is not in this life. It's when I emphasize that the Lord's returning, I'm emphasizing that for a reason. Okay, because there's a lot of targets out there that are pretty young, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to live the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years like this, and I just don't know if I can do it. You take one day at a time, okay, and you remember that this whole reality flip that you're dealing with, this strange scenario that you've been thrown into, this orchestra of obfuscation and madness and harassment, is temporary, period. Okay. And the people that seem like they're getting away with all this stuff, the people that are doing these things to you and driving you crazy and attacking you and, trying to gaslight you, well, if they don't repent, they're gonna be experiencing the very thing they're doing to you and worse for a long, long time. Okay. Now, that's not the good news. The good news is that you're not that there's gonna be an end to it. Okay. The whole world is indoctrinated in a way where we think that this is everything. We came from an explosion in outer space, and it's been billions of years. It's a miracle why we're here. And as I've coined before, we have Freemasons, circus clowns, tacos, Chinese food, the Shriners, and you. And we're just floating through outer space, a divine miracle of chaos. But that's not true. And we have biblical prophecy to back that up. And I've talked about those things, whether it's the 173,880 days from the decree of Artaxerxes to the coming of Jesus in 32 AD, or his death, or the Dead Sea Scrolls, where you have the prophecy of the Christ in 32 AD after the 9th Jubilee, and so on and so forth. It's in your face. It's all over. And people will get caught up in this whole battle of science or intelligent design. And, the fossil record will scare some people. There's such a thing as accelerated fossilization. Okay. You can make a fossil in a lab in 7 days. You just add minerals. Okay. And when you have a global flood, you have mineral rich, sediment rich liquid that has, basically covered everything over. And you can have, fossils in a fairly quick period of time. And I remember that was something that I saw when I was a kid, and I thought, oh my gosh, the Bible's got to be false because, look, those things look really old. It's just it couldn't have happened, in the time frame, but it can. And you can look at examples like Mount St. Helens, where you actually have that type of catastrophic interpretation, where you have cement layers and different rock layers, and they're formed in a fairly short period of time. I think it was 1980. So you're not some type of cosmic accident. This isn't everything. The reality flip that you're dealing with, and the problem of evil that all target individuals are confronted with, are going to lead you into a place where you can have eternal life. You can have the ultimate hope, not just compensation in a lawsuit, which would be nice, in a body that is dying and fading away. It wasn't that long ago where I was like 20 or 30 years old. I swear it was just yesterday. And, as you move through life, you're, my gosh, I'm going to be retiring in another 10 years. And I haven't got to do this, or I haven't got to do that. And they'll use that against target individuals. I hate that, and it's just tempting to believe it. And the targets will deal with the oppression of their attackers and the desolation and the despair of looking back down a twisted, pathway of nothingness and failure and harassment. And you have to know that this isn't it. This is not everything. Okay. The greater part of your existence is after this. It's more of a testing ground. I've talked about that before. A lot of targets try to figure out why they're being targeted. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things that come into play when you're dealing with the reasons people are being targeted, whether they're being experimented on, they're part of a government program, whether they are used as a vessel of wrath for coercion by a secret society, or whether it's a group of spiritual vampires, controlled by the demonic and feeding on the negative fear and all those things that targets are subjected to all that trauma. There's a lot of things, but ultimately, I think if you're going to look at it, I think it goes into the bigger picture of why God subjected his creation to weakness. And that is that through that and through the reality of that they would submit to him and realize the truth and be liberated and become one of the children of God. And that's in Romans chapter 8, I do believe. And, to be honest with you, thinking back on my experience, as I look around, because targets will deal with that, I'll look around, look at all the lateral comparisons that are around them. It's just, you seem like you're missing out. It's very frustrating. You wanted the house, the white picket fence. You wanted the perfect family, and the perfect job, and so here I am, and it's like, man, well, let's take a look at that for a minute, because if I would have been just like one of them and not known, because there are a lot of people who don't know about this, they think you're crazy, right? Well, what else don't they know? Because targets learn a lot through this experience. I know I have. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think I would have learned it otherwise. If I would have just had everything easy, if I just would have, been whistling down that yellow brick road to nowhere with the rest of these people, it's a pretty good chance that I would end up with them, and that's not good. Okay. It's not that all these people are gang stalkers necessarily. They don't know. They're blind, and you don't want that. You don't want to be in that dark, mysterious gray area to where you have that rude awakening later. Okay. And as I look at it, and I look at a lot of the other people, you're tempted to be envious, but at the end of the day, they are faithless. Okay. And this is an opportunity. A lot of people will turn this whole gang stalking ordeal into a type of soteriological doctrine. It can work that way, but there's a way that it doesn't work that way too. And there's a lot of targets out there who will deny the reality of the spiritual dimension and their logistical processing of what is happening to them. That somehow mysteriously all these people, this cabal that has gathered together to drive you crazy, somehow are all working for the government and have chased you around from state to state and are trying to kill you, but mysteriously, without resources or help, you have somehow outsmarted and survived their attack. Well, and which a lot of times will provoke people who don't believe in gang stalking to just think people are crazy. Well, if they're really trying to kill you, if they're really trying to do all this stuff, if they're really spending that much money, how in the hell did you survive? How did you prevail? Right? If they're really trying to get you, and why? What are they getting out of it? And, well, the thing is, it's bigger than that. I mean, there is the government stuff. There is the experimentation. There are people getting hired. There are people dealing with the CIA and with the DOD and all those things, MK Ultra. But it's more than that. And the thing that people don't understand, rather than get into that logistical nightmare right now, is that you are very important as someone made in the image of God. Okay, and everybody's going to be processed. Okay. Everybody is going to be standing before the throne of God to give an answer. How they lived their life, whether they had any faith, whether they believed the gospel, the outstretched arm of God to draw people in, to escape the tyranny of the world, the flesh, and the devil, and to have eternal life. Okay. That's it. That's the only thing that's important. And, it's not necessarily that I'm important or you're important, but you are intrinsically important because you are an image bearer and you were created in the image of God Almighty. Adam was with God's representative on the earth before he fell. And then, of course, authority and dominion was handed over to Satan. And until the return of Jesus, the culmination of that is not going to be complete. Okay, God's already sealed the victory, and Christ has destroyed and taken away the keys of hell, death, and the grave. But until he returns, we are still dealing with that processing, and you are very important. You are a commodity, and that is why they are after you. Okay, that's why the spiritual dimension cares. That's why they're deceiving the world. That's why they're blinding them with the hidden knowledge and secret wisdom that is out there in the secret societies, with technology and with this witchcraft mixed with science to obfuscate the reality of who you are and why you're here, and the opportunity that we all have and the responsibility that we all have to draw near to God and realize what's happening and confront the dilemma of evil, and to have faith in Christ and the truth. But they want you. They want you on their team. They want to destroy you. A lot of people will go along with that, and it seems like it works. I've talked to many of them, I've had people confess to me that they were part of my gang stalking, some in tears, regretfully conforming to the hive, to the horde of demonically influenced individuals, and well, some of them are gone. Their chance is over. In fact, one of the people that admitted to me in tears and apologized to me several times died last year. He was angry with God, and I don't know, maybe he changed his mind at the last minute. I hope he did. I don't know. He communicated to me that it wasn't going to work because he had gone to the other side, and that he didn't have a problem with me, but they wanted him to do things, and a lot of targets will talk about that. They will have testimonies involving people just confessing to them or apologizing to them, and it's sad, but it's true. There's a lot of people out there who are just afraid. There are a lot of people who know about gang stalking, and they're afraid. They see what's happening to us, and that's one of the purposes that they torture us this way. Because if people don't conform, if they know too much, if they're not blinded by the light, so to speak, and they're just confused by all this stuff, and they just they write it off, and they're one of those individuals who's conformed in a way they just don't know. But if they find anything out, well, they have to take one side or the other. It's a shotgun wedding. You want to end up like one of the targets, or you're just going to get in line. And I've talked about that before. When you get into people being experimented on, or individuals who believe they're in some type of government program, you got a whistleblower or someone who has information. What do you do to keep them quiet? You threaten them. That's deterrence. You see the things that are happening to targets or other people who've been destroyed or covertly killed. All of a sudden someone comes down with cancer, or they go crazy, or they just disappear, or whatever. You keep your mouth shut. And that's part of it. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it, because, as I said before, it's a very short period of time in comparison to what is ahead of us. And that's where we have to keep our focus, guys. That's where we have to keep our eyes fixed as targets, and our hope. Like I said, maybe there will be a lawsuit, or keep those security cameras and security systems going. Wear a body cam, do whatever you can. But ultimately, it's not going to be a political system. It's not going to be some whistleblower. It's going to be the return of the Lord. Ultimately, the world's under the tyranny of the flesh and the devil. And when you're dealing with this orchestra around you, and all these people that have come against you, like I said before, sometimes it is involving a government program or something like that, but sometimes they are just literally being manipulated demonically. And as that hypothetical example I gave earlier, where the target will go on the run and be chased, who knows, maybe from the West Coast to the East Coast, 1,000 miles away from their geographical stronghold, out into uncharted territory. They love it when you run, and it seems like it's waiting for you. It seems like it's everywhere, and it is. It always was. It was always there. I've talked about that before. It's not like this just started. This has always been there. The infrastructure is as old as the hills, and when you become targeted, you're thrown into a mechanism, and then it just goes right along with the process of traumatized mind control, sensitization, and conditioning, and you fit right in, and you think that it's all being done now, and you're special. They want you processing information in a personal way. They want you reading into it eventually, but it's there. It's always there. And then you get attacked with all these little phrases and themes and so on and so forth. And it just follows that scientific process. And the fact that people can do this to someone in broad daylight once they've been sensitized and conditioned using that mechanism, well, it obfuscates the reality of that whole menagerie that is around all the targets out there who would swear that not only their family, but their neighbors, co-workers, strangers, healthcare workers, first responders, cops, the lady down at the 7-Eleven, they know. They all know. And nobody can figure out how. Well, there's a way. There's a way that everything is working. And now you're awake. It's like the Matrix in a way, I guess. You've been awakened. And you see the reality around you. There's no going back. You've been red-pilled. And it's just the way it is. And you have to make the best of it. And you can look at this as an opportunity rather than some type of grievous affliction where everything is being taken away from you. All the things that you thought you needed really had nothing to do with anything. And this whole process of gangstalking can refine you and take you into a blessing. And it can strip away all the dross and all the paper mache that you were holding on to so that you can have something far better that will last forever. And I'm going to look and see who's out there. Okay, Steve the Pigeon, welcome. Sons of Thunder, welcome to the live stream. Mrs. Madsen Miles, glad to have you. Strange Maine, welcome. Bora Bora, awesome. Firefighter, always a pleasure. And what do we got here? Firefighter's got something to say. Not all gang stalkers are demons, but they are absolutely capable and willing demonic vessels. Well, yeah, I would agree with that. Yes, I would. Catherine, Jennifer, welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Jeremy M. Awesome. Let's see what Jeremy's talking about here. Let me read it first. Okay, Jeremy says, when I called out my older brother and demanded he admit it all, and he said, well, all he said was, I have a family to take care of, which is basically means he had no choice but to participate. That would be the way I would process that. It's almost an admission. I've got things I've got to do. I can't afford to be, true to you because I've got things I've got to take care of, responsibilities that supersede the needs of the targeted individual. That's the story that I've got. I've got that too. Like I said, that's basically the same thing that I think all targets talk about when people confess to them. I've heard that a lot, and they'll just say, "Well, I've got to, I've got to live. I've got to do." I understand. I mean, I understand their position. Then you got the other perps that they love it. They wouldn't, even if they didn't have any kind of obligation or anything, which some of them don't have a life, which is, one of the reasons they're so obsessed with you, because they don't have a normal life. They don't, I mean, I'm not even going to mention any names. You guys know who they are. And it's like, man, they love it. They need it. And then you have the other people like Jeremy's older brother, who's probably dealing with, kind of the threat of having something, that he loves or is, cares about attacked or something like that. You just don't know. And that's the way it works. Okay. And firefighter says, what happened to me felt like Nazi brown shirts level harassment. Make no mistake, this program comes right out of Nazi Germany. Yeah. And, I've mentioned that before. I'm not a political activist, so I don't want to be branded as an extremist or anything like that. I'm not a pacifist in the sense that I think people should vote. I think people should do whatever they can to make the world a better place. But at the end of the day, you guys know my position and my spiritual foundation as to the solutions to this whole thing. But as far as our government or whatever, it's pretty clear you're dealing with an extension of the Third Reich. I mean, you got Operation Paperclip, and now you got the New World Order. So whatever, you look at it however you want. Now we've got a lot of things, buzzing around, a lot of distractions. The thing that I'm worried about, if you want to get into that, I've been, looking into bird flu quite a bit, and that's been scaring me because that is a real scary, that's been coined the Brainiac virus, and it actually comes out of a human pig hybrid where you had the WSN33 human strain mixed with the Iowa pig flu of the 1930s, unless I have my information wrong, hemagglutinin HA or hemagglutinin 5. And back in 1971, there was only one basic amino acid or polyamino acid on the parent cleavage site. You move that up to where it is now, and we're just right at the edge of either a DNA recombination or a mutation, depending on how you look at that, from turning pandemic human. And the fatality rate on that is ridiculous. It's high. I think there's been around 460 some confirmed cases worldwide. And if that thing goes off the chain, you're looking at some serious stuff. Not only that, you look and see what's going on as far as what they're preparing for concerning the avian flu or bird flu. And it's horrifying. They've got over, let's see, it's almost 5 million doses of vaccine on standby now as of last year. They've got which, depending on which one it is, doesn't make sense because there's 12 substrains of that, 6 which are lethal. They have lethal polymorphisms, and that's why the fatality rate is over 50%. But they've recruited, it's like 300,000 kits for animal safety protocol and so on and so forth worldwide in 70 countries, and they've got all these workers trained, and it's something's coming, guys. And I've talked about that before. The pandemic was a run through, and with the lethality rate of this virus, which depending on the lethal polymorphisms, it can bypass your immune system. And there's no interleukin 4, which means that you could have it and you wouldn't even know it until it basically kills you, similar to the hemorrhagic flu, where it's like Ebola on roids. It's pretty scary. And you can look at a map of the avian flu, how that ended up with all the DNA sequences and everything over in Asia, some odd years later, with added polybasic amino acids is, well, that's not possible. So something's going on there, guys. But whether or not it's some kind of lab creation or whether it is some type of DNA recombination, it's horrifying to me to what would happen. Now, when you see the agenda that's going on to get rid of meat, get people eating, crickets and stuff, which, they looked into that. The people think I'm joking. That's called a cheetah powder or flour, where you literally, it's already in food. Look it up. If you don't believe me, it's in biscuits and cookies and, whatever, pancakes. And it's just basically freeze-dried or whatever, ground up crickets. But the problem is it causes inflammation to the point of being carcinogenic. You get all that exoskeleton and everything, and well, I don't care if there's protein in it or not. But the whole conspiracy to dumb people down with fluoride and other chemicals and so on and so forth. And I've talked about the fact that the food pyramid is a bunch of baloney. Do your research. I've got some videos. I'll put some more up on the playlist concerning all this stuff, guys. I'll do that within the next couple of days. But it's important to realize that kind of plays into the famine and other things that go along with biblical prophecy. When you talk about something like, a bird flu or whatever, avian flu, What are they doing to all the, the chickens and everything? The egg prices went through the roof. It was like an experiment there. And eggs have all the essential amino acids that you need. It's one of the most perfect foods you can eat, along with beef and chicken. They tried to bastardize and demonize beef, right? And the experiments they did with the American Medical Association, it's worth, I don't know, the fanciest outhouse wallpaper you can buy, because they used processed meats like pizza and fast food, McDonald's food, along with that study to prove that red meat, it was in correlation with stomach cancer and heart disease, which there isn't any evidence for any of that. I'll put some more videos up on the list, but the point is this, it plays into everything. Okay. And I had a buddy that lives up, well, he was working on some turkey farms, and it's, according to what he told me, contradicted the data that I got, because the last confirmed cases, I think, of the bird flu transmitting to humans was in 2022. I could go back and look at that, but I'm not going to be able to do it right now. But he said that back, I think it was in 2012 or something like that, or 2016, whatever it was, that because he was piling these birds up with a tractor because they were dying, okay, from this stuff. He worked around it, and he said he got sick. And he said that other people got sick too. And he was in the hospital, and he said all this stuff was going on. And he said that they're lying. Okay, it's a bunch of rooster poop. And he said that so who knows what's really going on? Along with the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and I hope he makes it in, because I think that'd be great. But my fear is that they're trying to use this to create some type of civil war, and I don't think that for a minute that Thomas Crook was just some kid who just happened to almost kill the president. I think something else is going on. I've talked about the possibilities and impossibilities concerning that, but I think there's obviously an agenda to kill Donald Trump, and I don't think it's going to stop. And I don't know if it was back in 2020. I had a dream about this whole thing. I didn't dream about Thomas Crook or anything like that. I just had a dream that there was a plot to kill Trump. Maybe it was that I ate too much pizza. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. It was probably a coincidence. But I was at a dinner party. There was like the thing with him there. I don't remember, where it was or whatever, but something happened. I ended up, finding this. It was almost like a butterfly knife. Dreams are kind of symbolic. That had a Chinese symbol from China and a symbol from Russia on it. Whatever. I mean, like I said, it was probably too much. I don't know, fast food or something that night that I ate. But this whole thing, I think everybody is thinking about this, and I don't think they're going to stop. There's obviously a conspiracy to take him out of office at the very least. I mean, look at all the things, this witch hunt that's happened. And, we got a lot of things up in the air. Like I've said many times, this election year is very crucial. And I'm on the edge of my seat at this point now. We're moving in to uncharted territory, and it's going to be wild, guys. This is, for me, this is the most significant election that I've ever had the pleasure to be alive to see, and it could get ugly. So let me go back into the comments. And Harlan Top says that I'm going to be honest, I prefer a real zombie apocalypse. Well, you got it, man. It's just a little different. I mean, if the only difference is you can shoot those zombies, and that would be legal. If everybody, got some kind of weird, rabies, bioweapon thing or something, and because that literally, when you look into that, it's like almost a possibility. You could probably legally shoot them, but when it comes to gangstalking, you can't do it. It's illegal. So, otherwise we'd be talking about ammo and guns, guys. I'll tell you right now. Yeah. Oh gosh. I'm still waiting for a moderator. And it doesn't look like we got one. Just Me Heidi, welcome to the live stream. Oh, we don't have a moderator yet. I wonder where Nicholas Boserman is. You just never know. Well, it is what it is. Huh. Hi, Rudy. How you doing? You gotta love it. I didn't think I'd have to be my own moderator tonight, but sometimes you gotta do that. It is what it is. Anybody have any questions or it's like I had to do some of my own moderating tonight. Sorry guys, I had to, all I got is this cheap phone. So Nicholas just showed up. Okay, good. Yeah, it was just I had to just put someone a timeout, Nicholas. But now that you're here, I'm going to let you do that. It looked like Rudy wanted trouble, man. And if I was wrong, I apologize, Rudy. But you gotta be cool. Okay, you gotta be cool, man. Or you can't be here. That's the way it goes. All right. Well, let's see here. Well, sometimes that's true, Nicholas. You don't understand where someone's coming from, but you can usually tell their intentions. Maybe I was right, maybe I wasn't. And Mrs. Matson Miles says, I am really tired at this point and not feeling any kind of forgiveness for what I call my enemy. Can't let my guard down for 1 second because they take advantage of this. Yeah, they do. And that's the emotional roller coaster that we're all on. And you know what? Forgiveness is not necessarily an emotional thing. It's like the love of the Bible, right? Love the truth, or to love God. It's not. God doesn't want emotionalism, right? How do you create that? Well, give me $1 million, and I can make a lot of people love me, right? Because I can make them happy, and that's emotionalism. But that's here today and gone tomorrow. And as far as the perps are concerned, when the Bible talks about forgiveness or whatever, that's also, remember, that's also contingent upon someone asking you for forgiveness and being sincere, not someone being a smartass like a lot of gangstalkers do. And so I'm sorry, you got to forgive me because of the Sermon on the Mount. A lot of people don't understand the Sermon on the Mount. And that has to do with Jesus giving the Judaizers or the Pharisees the full brunt end of the law. They thought they were justified under the law, right? And the penalty of the law and sin is what? Death, right? Or there were other laws that had no sacrifice for them, but ultimately the Bible is very clear that God is not going to be satisfied with the blood of bulls and goats and so on and so forth. That was temporary. And Jesus was telling them that they needed a Messiah, right? If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It's better than going to hell. Why? Because if you're going to be justified under the law, you better not sin, because the wages of sin is death, right? If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out, right? You better, pretty soon everybody, we'd have a guillotine and we'd have all these, amputation devices, and we just, finally just have to kill people because everybody's going to keep sinning. They need a Messiah. In other words, a full brunt end of the law, right? Turn the other cheek. Okay, well, give all your money to a stranger. That's not going to work, is it? No. But if you're going to be perfect like God, And if you're going to be justified under the law, you better do it. So people take that stuff out of context. But forgiveness, like I said, is also contingent upon people repenting. And Peter said to Jesus, "How many times have I forgiven my brother? 7 times?" And Jesus said 70 times 7, right? If they come to you and say, I'm sorry. But what are gangstalkers? When they apologize to you, that's just sarcasm, right? If somebody is truly sorry and they're repenting or whatever, that's different. But if somebody keeps doing something to you and they just, smart alecky, look at, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. And you don't have to, be someone's doormat, by the way. Okay. That's not what the Bible's about. In fact, there's excommunication in the Bible, right? What's that? If somebody refuses to repent, they go out and hand them over to the world so that they can learn their lesson. Hand them over to Satan. Paul said, when that guy was sleeping with his father's wife. I said, not even the world accepts that kind of stuff. Hand him over to Satan that his flesh might be destroyed. That's not talking about killing him, by the way. That's hand him over to the world so he could be worked over, right? And later in a later passage, Paul says, encourage such a one so that they're not overwhelmed with sorrow and grief and be overcome. But excommunication is a reality. Why? Because people need to, if they're doing something, they need to change their behavior, right? And as far as forgiving people, well, if they're not repenting, they're not, and even if they do, it's not like you got to drop everything and just, okay, it's all love. Let me give you a hug and a kiss. And it's like, that's just not realistic. And there's people out there that might try to sell that, but it's just not the way it is. If a woman gets raped by somebody, she doesn't have to go after that person and get revenge and do all this horrible stuff. But if he gets caught or whatever, she can press charges and he can be prosecuted and go to prison, right? Why? Because that's the way it works. Okay. I guess I forgive you. You're sorry if we'll say the guy's repentant or whatever, but you know what? You got to go to prison. Okay. That's the way it goes. Right. We have to live with some of that. Some of the stuff that happens, is, it's just the way it works. But as far as, that ooey gooey, love that you're supposed to have for your enemies, whatever. I don't know. I'm not really all that. I try, and I see, the biblical principle that God is good to people who are ungrateful, and that, if your enemy is hungry, give them something to eat or whatever. Pray for your enemy, but you don't have to be a doormat either. A lot of people take that stuff out of context. But I hear you, Mrs. Matson Miles. And you know what? I feel that way a lot too. And sometimes it gets the better of me. But you know what? By the grace of God, here we go. Okay. Enough corruption. Welcome to the live stream. Okay. Jill Alcock, welcome to the live stream. And she says, I've been expecting an attempt on Trump forever. I'm not surprised because those people are crazy. Yeah, they are. Literally. Okay. Enough Corruption asks, what is the weaponry used on your teeth? I don't know. I've heard that from targets, and a lot of people will talk about different types of directed energy weapons or frequencies. I don't know. I honestly have no answer for that. I've never had that happen to me. I've heard a lot of people talk about a lot of different things, and a lot of people talk about shielding and other things and so on and so forth. And you just never know. There is a lot of technology out there, and we're seeing some pretty scary stuff being presented in the targeted individual community as possibilities for what's happening to some of the people out there. And I was watching a show tonight, and there was a guy talking about different things involving, it's not necessarily direct energy weapons, but you know, how your body can literally, you know, turn into a type of, I don't know, I guess that where you could, I don't know, alter your pH and all these other things and shave your head to get rid of the targeting. And I don't know. Some of it is just beyond to where, you know, if you're going to, what I'm getting at is this. If you expect to find that answer out in the target individual community, I'd be very careful on how you apply that to your life. And, you know, even you know, I don't have anything against this guy's channel. In fact, I watch it all the time. I'm not going to mention his name. I enjoy his videos and everything, but, you know, telling everybody to shave their head, and especially the women, I don't know. That a lot of your targeting will stop. I don't believe that. I would suggest that targets would draw near to God and take refuge under the wings of the Almighty, and that'd be the best option that you get as far as anything that targets are dealing with out there. And you know, God's in control of anything. If anybody can fix it, it's Him. Rather than for, you know, everybody out there to all of a sudden, you know, be bald and trying to figure out why their harassment hasn't stopped. Of course, that's insult to injury, man. You know, you desperate people who are looking for an ass, shave your head. You know, chicks are out there wearing wigs. I don't know why I believed it, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't. I've heard that though. And I would imagine that some of those things are possible. I don't know. Some things I just don't know. Anybody out there in the comments has a suggestion, go put it up in the comments. Firefighter says, I might try a garlic necklace and see if the vampires evade. Well, yeah. And it's always, you know, they talked a little bit about eating onion to change the alkaline, you know, content, I guess, or your pH or whatever. Onions are good for you. Onions are a superfood. They'll take your blood pressure down. They've got allicin. It's great for a lot of stuff. It's got vitamin C, I think, too. And I've noticed for me, eating onions, I don't know if because I eat raw onion every day. I've never made the correlation to any type of electronic attack, but it could be possible. I don't know. But if nothing else, it's good for the breath. So, and the garlic would be too, firefighter. So if you guys, Miss Mats and Miles might disagree with us, but you can always try it. I don't know if it'll work out if you're married, but the onion thing, it doesn't affect me because I'm single. So I always got that onion breath. Nobody's ever gonna know. And besides that, I wear a mask still, and a lot of people don't like that either. But you know, I look a lot better with a mask, believe it or not. So. Okay. A little looking at the comments here. It looks like Strange Bane dealt with some staining on the teeth. You know, I know the fluoride content of everything out there, including the water, can be pretty high to the point where you can get fluorosis. And then there's other issues out there, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not aware of that one. I'll let you guys haggle with that. I'm just going through the comments. And let's see here. Okay. Well, I'm gonna let me see. We got something else coming here now. Well, let's get back into the theme of this obfuscated orchestra of gangstalking, and there's a lot of ways that it happens. We talked about a lot of that before, where, you know, targets are taken into a place where not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, we'll just stay kind of on the surface to where they are thrown into that mechanism, and they are traumatized and infiltrated and sensitized and conditioned to the labyrinth that is already out there. Okay, I've talked about that before. Or, if you're not one of those targets who's experiencing higher forms of harassment, that it's just a scientific, modus operandi. The sensitization and conditioning that targets deal with is a very reliable way to discredit someone. Okay, that's part of the obfuscation. You hear testimonies from targets, and then they get into the labyrinth of all the stuff that they've dealt with, and they try to figure it out, because there's all kinds of little bits and pieces that are connected here and there, and then you get into the MK Ultra, then you get into the Freemasons, then you get into the Illuminati, and you get into the demonic stuff, you get into the occult and all this, and then it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem realistic. And like I said before, when I started the video, you have targets who just somehow mysteriously evade this huge horde of attackers and I don't know, inexhaustible resources that are after them. Okay, and it doesn't seem realistic to people. And of course, the opinion that someone on the outside looking in, they're going to say, well, this guy's obviously nuts. How would they escape, in a Pinto, in a backpack, running from Motel 6 to Motel 6. And, somehow now they've escaped this huge cabal of Freemasons, Illuminati, demonic, whatever, MK Ultra, CIA personnel, people who have, hired people to chase them from job to job and, torment them at the Dairy Queen. And there's just no way. But it's, it can be kind of like that, I guess. But the whole thing just makes targets look nuts. But I know what they're saying is true. Okay. Whether people believe it or not, and I've talked about the way psychiatry fits into this whole thing. People are diagnosed with factitious disorder, schizophrenia, complex post-traumatic syndrome, to the point of psychosis, and all these weird things that really have nothing to do with what's happening to you, But for the people that are looking at it, it looks like the only reasonable explanation. And then you have the propositional tyranny that comes out of the environmental tyranny that targets are dealing with. And I've talked about the fact that it's very scientific. So you all of a sudden, you deal with this scenario where people know your business, and then it just seems like it's everywhere. And you try to figure out what's happening, but in the process, you've been infiltrated. Your mind has been invaded. You've got this mind virus. Now you're paranoid. You're looking for this stuff everywhere. You're processing information differently, and you're in a heightened state of alert. You're not able to concentrate the same way. You're completely obsessed with trying to keep yourself safe and figure out who you can trust. You're isolated, so now you're talking to yourself. You could be dealing with directed energy weapons or V2K or whatever else, and that's going to make it worse. You could be getting covertly drugged. You're obviously not going to be sleeping the same way, and you could be dealing with the noise campaigns and everything else the targets deal with, and everything is just nothing but anticipation. Am I going to get harassed at work? What's going to happen? What am I going to do? Who are these people? And the target slips into a downward spiral of dysfunction. It's inevitable. Okay, it's going to affect anybody who is subjected to it, and as a result, even if you don't, get into the place where you have propositional tyranny and believe that every accident scene you come across is set there for you, and the CIA or everywhere watching you, and every drone and helicopter and airplane that you see has got a direct energy weapon pointing at you, you're still, going to have problems. Okay, and as a result, along with the disinformation campaign and the actual conscious collusion that is going after the target, the people around them aren't going to believe them. If you start talking about it, it'll just make it worse. It's like quicksand. You start moving, you go deeper. You start trying to tell people, you call the cops and make a report, or you go to the boss and tell them what's going on, and it's, you don't know who's in on it. You don't know what's going on. And the next thing you know, your family's, in on it, or something's happening there, and they want to take you to the hospital, right? And but no, you got to believe me, it's really happening. And look, Robert Duncan's got a book, and everybody's being mind controlled. There's a cryogenic computer and they're like, oh, okay. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying that they're not working on that stuff. I'm just saying that the mechanism, the obfuscation of this whole thing that targets deal with, depending on what it is that you're dealing with, is obfuscated by the strategy of gang stalking, and it plays into psychiatry and the diagnosis of mental illness and the mythos of medication and all the things that go along with the disinformation campaign that's against them. Well, they're dealing drugs, they're on drugs, or whatever, right? And people are going to believe it because especially if the target starts talking about it, and especially even beyond that, if they're giving into disinformation. Okay, and of course they're going to be stressed and everything else. And so you could find your most trusted friend, and if they don't know about this stuff, you're eventually going to be discredited with everybody, because they're either in on it or they're not being subjected to it. And it's that much of a reality flip. It's that much of a scientific, I don't know, methodology to drive someone into a place where they're isolated and deprived, to where they're gonna, even if they don't believe they're crazy, which a lot of targets will get to the place where they will start wondering, the people around them will. Let's go into the comments, see if you guys have anything yet. Andy Smith, welcome to the live stream. Okay. And Just Me Heidi says, I get aggressive, reckless drivers coming at me. I called the police and the officer was gaslighting me, which I expected. Yeah. And you don't know. You just don't know who you're going to be dealing with. And it's like I've said before, when you're dealing with the hierarchy of puppets in this world, it's not to say that everybody's working for the government or being contacted via the internet and told, who you are, with your head spinning around on this little picture with your name on it, that you're a targeted individual. Okay, you're on the hit list of the Kingdom of Darkness, period. You got a target on your head. They want you. They've decided this is what they're going to do with you. And this is how they're going to coerce other people. You're going to play into their little menagerie that they have. You're going to play into the menagerie of psychiatry, of coercion, of the obfuscation of the spiritual dimension, and the whole thing works, fairly effectively. And because of that infrastructure that's out there, you just don't know who you're dealing with. You could call the police, but unless you got rock solid evidence, it's going to work against you. It's really one of those scenarios where you got to kind of fake it to make it and pretend like everything is okay. A lot of people would disagree with that, but I'm telling you, by experience, you do whatever you want. But you get into that predicament where you're trying to explain this stuff. You don't know who you're dealing with. And that I've worked with people and known people for decades, and I never would have suspected them of even having any clue about any of this stuff. And then the next thing I know, they come out and do something and laugh and wink, and I don't talk about this stuff with anybody. And I'm like, whoa! And now I see what's going on. I see who you are now. They reveal them, so I take off the mask and show you who they really are. And that's the worst part about being a targeted individual, is that you're surrounded by these people, and you don't know who the hell is in on it, until they come bite you, or whatever. And it's just too late at that point. So they want you needy, and they want you stressed out, and they want you thinking that the world is still a logical place where you go ahead and call the police, tell them what's going on. But it usually flips on the target. Then you get the real weird stuff where targets will literally have video evidence or whatever, and then it just like disappears. Either gets blacked out of their phone or whatever, or it's like somebody goes back in the timeline and changes it or something. It's like, what's up with that? I've seen that. I had an experience. I think it was a couple summers ago. I was cleaning out my air conditioner, get everything ready for summer, and I went around. It was about 10, 15 feet from the front of my house. I had to go around the corner because the hose is on the house in the front. And I came back around, the door was open. I'm like, oh, I must not have closed it, Good thing I put my little kitty in her little cage thing. And so I went and closed the door, made sure it was closed. Blah, blah, blah. Went out and started, spraying out the inside of that. Put it back down, went shut the water off, came back, and the door was open again. When I looked on the security system, because I've got cameras pointing towards the door from the living room above the door on the outside, so on and so forth. I've got 7 cameras around me. Right now I'm on camera. It was gone. It was gone. The only thing that was on the security system was the footage from the alleyway. And it was turned back to 1970. And I'm like, how in the hell did that happen? You're talking about a coordinated effort. Now I've got people talking to me like Nicholas and other people talking about cloaking. I mean, it's bad enough when you're dealing with a coordinated effort. I don't even know what to think. You got spiritual stuff going on. You've got technological stuff going on. What are you going to tell people? It's just like some kind of cosmic gag reel where it turns into slapstick comedy and it's all on you. I swear it was right. Yeah, okay, buddy. Whatever. So what? They're breaking into your house and moving your furniture around? No, they didn't steal the money out there on the table, though, huh? Okay, you on any meds? You been taking any drugs? And you fit right into the profile that they want you to. Is that I told a lot of targets, you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you don't know who you're dealing with. Okay. All right. Looks like you guys are having a good conversation. Chris Steger, welcome. You got anything going on out there, Chris, up in the Great Falls area? How'd did all that stuff that was going on stop completely, or are you still getting a little bit of harassment here and there? Did it all go away? Love to hear about that. Okay, yeah, Chris says it's pretty much back to normal. That's a good example, I think, of something that's spiritual, in my opinion. A lot of people say it's government. Why would the government care if you fall off the wagon? And that goes into, a lot of the gaslighting that targets deal with. I've heard a lot of targets talk about that stuff. I don't know. Anybody can have their own opinion. I'm not going to, force anything on anybody. But when you get into the spiritual dimension and looking at, some of the logistical stuff, especially what Chris was talking about, it's like it comes out of nowhere. I've seen that, where it just literally comes out of the woodwork. As soon as you make a wrong move, man, it's like, boom, they're on you like white on rice. And it's crazy. It's like you've entered the twilight zone, man. And there are targets to deal with that. And, as I was talking about earlier with it, being, awakened to that stuff and possibly even chastised, with this, God can use it however he wants. But, in the case of Chris, the fact that, he only experiences gangstalking, when he kind of crosses the line and does something, to me, it's almost like it could be a positive thing, but I've seen that kind of thing before. A lot of targets will talk about having an experience like that, whether it be drugs or, some other thing that they're not supposed to be doing. And then they'll experience an attack. It's like the kingdom of darkness has leeway, right? And they'll use all the leeway they've got, to try and keep you going in the wrong direction, right? To try to, maximize on whatever it was, It's not that there's not forgiveness with God or anything. Of course there is, but there's also consequences to when we screw up. In fact, I've noticed that a lot of things will be correlated, kind of set up around people like that too, to where I've had temptations. In fact, I was dealing with that the other day, where all of a sudden it just kept popping into my head. Why don't you just have a beer? Why? What am I going to do that for? It's been 11 years since I've had a drink, and admittedly I've been dealing with a lot of stress. I had all those flat tires. Thank God, literally, thank you Jesus. They stopped doing that. I had 14 flat tires in a month. I got a hernia over the thing. Oh, by the way, the prayers are working. Thanks be to Jesus, and thank you guys for your prayers. As far as I know, the pain's pretty much gone. Hopefully that won't happen again. But you deal with stress. You deal with, I don't know if that's what it, but it seemed like it was more than that. Oh, come on, you can you just have a half a beer. Why? I'm thinking to myself, why does this keep popping up? I'm having dreams about it and all this stuff, and I'm like, my gosh, oh, come on, there's nothing in the Bible says you can't have a drink. You can drink. Well, yeah, but why? Well, why would I do that? I'm like fighting with myself. Was it really me? It was like it was some type of spiritual thing. I wasn't hearing B2K. I wasn't hearing someone else's voice. It seemed like it was just me. And I'm thinking, well, this is ridiculous. But it kept coming and kept coming. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm bound and determined not to do it now because this is suspicious. I'm absolutely not going to do it, And it wasn't, it was the next day I woke up, and right away, wasn't long after I woke up, I had the symptoms of what felt like the withdrawals. And it lasted for a while too, like a panicky, your heart pounding and everything. And I'm like, boy, if I would have drank, if I would have had that beer, I would have assumed that that's what it was. And it might have been, and I've talked about this before, you deal with synergistic chemicals and stuff like that, because a lot of the orchestra that you're dealing with is set up around the target individual in a way where they will correlate things that are, in your environment and things that are invisible, try to manipulate you. It's like that manufactured justification that I've talked about when you deal with the gaslighting and Gangstalking. If you wouldn't have screwed up or whatever, it would have been fine. And they'll try to get you to internalize all this stuff. But sometimes when it's involved in a target's life that you could have, like I've talked about, the synergistic aspect of fuming or other things, to where they will use your lifestyle against you. Maybe you're drinking an energy drink that's got a lot of potassium in it. They mix something into your hygiene products, slip something in your food. All those three chemicals combined, you have, a reaction. It feels like you're going to have a heart attack, but you don't know what it is. And then you assume that it's something you ate, and then you accuse somebody of poisoning you or whatever. You take the food or whatever it is to the hospital or to the cops, and then they're like, "There's nothing in it," right? And they'll do that kind of stuff. But I don't know who knows what would have happened if I would have drank. Maybe there was something that they did or whatever. And if I would have drank, it would have, went after my liver, or I would have really had a real bad, panic attack or something, to the point where I would have been in withdrawals for a couple of days just from a half a beer or whatever. I've seen that kind of stuff before. You get set up. And concerning the synergistic stuff, you get some really weird things going on there. And the targets, you'll see their cigarette pack messed with, or the perps will come in and break into your house, and they'll do something in your fridge or whatever. But if they do something like that, it's no target is going to suspect a synergistic plot, or they invite you over for dinner, or you deal with some perps, and they're like, oh yeah, come on over. And you got something in your hygiene product already. They slip you something in your drink. You don't get a reaction. When you eat the third chemical that's in the food, you feel like you're going to lose your mind. And then you freak out, or they accuse you of being, we ate the food, nothing happened to us. Of course, you're not going to figure out that you're the victim of a very intricate synergistic poisoning plot, to where they're just it's designed to gaslight you too. And a lot of targets will deal with. I've dealt with that kind of stuff, and then people will try to gaslight the target and come over. Well, I'm not scared of this. I'll eat something out of your fridge. You're paranoid. You're crazy. But, they know that they're immune or whatever, because, it's a matter of combining different chemicals together. It's really because the stuff that targets deal with is just nuts. Anybody accuses me of just saying all these things are just, abracadabra demons or whatever. I don't believe that. There's puppets involved. There's all kinds of things involved. Sometimes they'll use technologies. They'll hack your phone. They'll install cameras and whatever. They'll do all that kind of stuff. They'll follow you, right? They'll do all kinds of weird things to the target. But it's just because there's a spiritual foundation to it doesn't mean you're not going to be dealing with that weird stuff. But you just don't know. There's a lot of setups. And I'm glad that all those things have mellowed out for you, Chris. And you're in my prayers as far as your sobriety. Guys, please pray for me because I've been dealing with that too. Sometimes the marijuana thing comes up. So I don't have anything against marijuana. You want to smoke marijuana, go ahead. But one of the things that I've noticed for targets is, you don't have all the luxuries other people have to deal with. There was people putting stuff on my weed. Back when I used to smoke it. And, what are you going to do? It's just like the food tampering for targets. And my buddy figured that one out. He called me up, and he's like, that because I gave him a little bit. He says, this stuff is making me throw up. And I'm like, oh, come on, you're just smoking too much, man. Just ease off a little bit. It's really strong. But it was making me throw up too. Come to find out, it was laced, man. And it was crazy. I had to take activated charcoal. It was like laced a bunch of heavy metals. And yeah, we were sick. Crazy stuff, guys. These people, the things that they're doing are going to come back on them. But, a lot of it's psychological, but not everything is psychological when it comes to gang stalking. Some of it is just, I swear they tried to kill me several times. They just don't want to make it look like somebody tried to kill me, A lot of targets will talk about that, they're trying to kill. They might be. Ultimately, they want you to, I don't know, commit suicide or, do something else or, act out, get thrown in prison. But, this stuff is very reckless and very malicious. And let's see what else is out there. Angel Stone Fall says, don't drink the Jonestown juice. That's been a long time since I had any Kool-Aid, man. Jason Black, welcome to the live stream. FNE, welcome. Nicholas Boserman says, they watch you lifelong. If you start doing something that discredits you, they'll attack. Absolutely. They are. They're waiting for that. It's a good point, Nicholas. Catherine Jennifer says, boots on the ground, God's warriors. Amen to that. Okay. FNE says, I've realized that my targeting experience fits well with the spiritual warfare. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Sons of Thunder says, they're trying to get me to shave my head. Lol. Not a chance. They told me I just got out of a long distance bullet game. Look at the guy. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I was, the only thing I was joking about when I said that earlier, whether that has anything to do with what I said or not, is that there was somebody telling people that they could eliminate a lot of their targeting by shaving their head. I don't know if I'm assuming that could be false. But I don't I don't try to I don't try to discredit anybody if I don't have all the information. But in order for that to be true, there'd have to be a lot of confirmations in a target's life. I personally, like I said, have found a lot of relief in drawing near to God and doing the spiritual warfare thing. The word has a lot of God's word has a lot of promises, and that the one who keeps their mind steadfast on God will be in perfect peace. Okay, and it doesn't always work that way. You're going to be tested. You're going to be pushed. You're going to be squeezed. But ultimately, there's going to be times of refreshing, and I pray that we would all hang in for that and press on And God knows your weaknesses. He knows how far you can go, and he's not going to give you any more than you can handle, in the sense that he is going to help you. Of course, all these things are more than anybody can handle, but when God steps in, he makes up for the difference. Okay. Nicholas Bosworth says, my head's been shaved since I was 20. It didn't help. Okay. No, that's important. That is important to know that. I mean, they were telling the girls to shave their heads too. I mean, like I said, insult to injury is on a completely different level. People are desperate for answers. People need relief, and they don't need to deal with that kind of stuff. I don't know if it was malicious. Maybe the guy really believes it. I don't know. It actually seemed like he was pretty sincere, but at the same time, like I said, in order to really know something like that, you'd have to have a lot of confirmation on someone's specific scenario before you tell them that if they do this, that, or the other, that they're gonna have relief. With the exception of drawing near to God, which is the ultimate solution. But like I said, even then you got to press in. Sometimes it's a long time before you find that refreshing time frame, and I don't have all the answers. I don't, but I know that I know what I know. And I know that there is a spiritual foundation to this whole thing. And I also know that there's a lot of biblical prophecy that's been fulfilled out there, whether it's the 2,484 years from the decree or the return of Israel to the homeland in 536 to 1948, or the confirmation of the time of Jesus in 32 AD by both the book of Daniel and the Dead Sea Scrolls, or several other things that are in the Bible. And like I said, if a lot of people, so what if you're wrong? What if it is? What if it's just the reptilians? Well, it doesn't matter. You have to use the law of zero effect at that point, right? It's like the Calvinists, man. They believe that God has determined everything, and he's meticulously ordained all these different things. And it's like, well, what if you don't believe? What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if God is? Well, it won't matter. It's not going to change anything. If my opinion or my stance on a position like that is futile, isn't going to change a thing. But if it's wrong, it's going to make a huge difference, right? That's what you got to think about. If it is just the tyranny of the government, the world, and there's this big cabal of leaders, and we're just going to die, and we're going to be dead like animals, and we're just going to be gone, it isn't going to matter. Or if it's it's aliens or something like that, it's not going to matter. You're just subject to their tyranny. There's nothing you can do about it. But if that's not true, and there is a judgment day, it's like the Pascal wager. Well, it matters. It matters what you believe, and there's really the only hope that you're going to find is in that. We're a very small minority of people, and if there is no return of Jesus, if there is no ultimate judgment or justice or accountability, it ain't going to matter. You might as well conform at that point. But you'd have to ignore all the evidence out there and believe some pretty ridiculous stuff, like we came from an explosion, right? It's ridiculous. There's too much evidence out there for the return of Jesus, and the fact that mankind is the image bearer of God on the earth, and one day there's going to be a judgment, period. Okay. Strange Maine says, did they suggest blueberries? They never mentioned the blueberries. Yeah, like that blueberry gum on Willy Wonka. No, blueberries are actually pretty good. They they've got a lot of antioxidants and stuff. The only problem with the stuff out there with fruit is fructose, which is kind of balanced out with the phytonutrients and the fiber and everything. But it's the pesticides, right? That's, there's a lot of problems with that. But your diet does matter. I mean, the health of the targeted individual is impacted greatly by gang stalking, and focusing on living healthy is an important. There's nothing wrong with that. For all I know, there could be some kernels of truth to some of that stuff. I don't know if you guys watch that video, know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm gonna put. I don't know. If you want to eat blueberries, go for it, man. I don't see anything wrong with. Like I said, the only thing that would be wrong with pesticides would worry me. And it seems like when I eat fruit, for some reason, I get inflammation. And then you can also look into the truth about what happens as far as fructose and the way it impacts your liver. There's a lot of controversial stuff out there, but it is what it is. Everything's different now. And then you guys have probably heard about that. What's that stuff that they're spraying on the fruit or whatever? That stuff that Bill Gates came out with. It's like I don't know. It's like a wax or something. I guess that stuff's really nasty. Make sure you don't eat that. Nicholas got called a Nazi because he shaved his head. You should have. You got a fake swastika tattoo and just put it right up on your forehead for a week to see. But no, I'm just kidding. You don't want to do that. Get the Hitler mustache. See what they say. I'm looking to see. Nicholas says up here at 11:09 a little while ago. I know V2K yells about haircuts a lot, me included. Funny how they hear the same thing. It's like a reference to youth having long hair and cutting it in ancient Greece. Okay. Well, I don't know. I've experienced something like V2K only once. And it was really weird. It was like, I don't know, it was like listening to like 4 to 6 soundtracks melded together. And I felt really woozy and I felt really sick. And at first I thought it was something coming from outside. I didn't know what was going on, you know, and it was really creepy. I felt dizzy and I felt sick. And I was like, I don't know what the hell this is, but I just laid down and went to bed. When I got up, it was gone. And it was really weird. It wasn't like one person talking or anything. Like, it was like music, different music tracks plus crowds of people talking, and it was like all melded together. It was really creepy, man. And it didn't sound natural at all, and it was accompanied by a lot of tinnitus. So I'm assuming it was something like that. I don't know. I'm glad it didn't happen since. Okay. Well, you guys have any questions? We can do that now. Let's do some Q&A, man. I'm ready. It was hot out here today, 105 in the big sky. And tomorrow is supposed to be pretty hot too. And it's just ridiculous. I've got the air conditioner blasting, and I'm laying here basically half naked, and it's just hot. The cat's sprawled out next to me, and she's hot. She's sleeping. It's probably, gosh, man, almost 80 degrees in here right now still. The house was baked, and it probably won't cool off for another couple hours. So I'm ready for some Q&A. Let's see what's going on now. Okay. Looks like Angels Don't Fall is doing some mechanic work again. Right on, brother. Wow, it's a good thing. It's a good thing you mentioned the charging cord, dude, because I just about ran out of battery power. There we go. Well, I'm waiting for a question. Come on, there's got to be somebody who's got a question for me. Come on. I'm going to go back up in the comments, see if I can find something here. We've got a berry conversation out there. Okay. Well, I'm not finding any of their comments. I'm waiting for a question, though. Let's see. Oh, come on, guys. You got to have a question. Well, what else am I going to talk about? There's a lot to deal with when it comes to the obfuscation. We talked about the target being discredited. We talked a little bit about disinformation campaigns and how that fits into what targets deal with. And of course, it's just that much more believable as they experience the effects of harassment. And it's usually along with the justification and the gaslighting that is involved with what target individuals deal with. This is why we hate you. You're a freak. You're a second-class citizen. In the case of some targets, they're accused of heinous deviance, whether they're some type of sexual offender or drug dealer. That plays into the obfuscation of it. Psychiatry is a big factor when it comes to gang stalking too, because not only is the framework around you for everybody that's out there different than what it is for targets. You're dealing with reality. You are dealing with raw, unadulterated, in-your-face reality. The people around you aren't. So that's a huge problem. But when it comes to psychiatry, the whole ordeal the target individual is dealing with fits that criteria, the persecutory delusion or schizophrenia or factitious disorder, right? Psychosis. And, it's a gold mine for the perps. I was watching another guy's video the other day, and it was one of those tricks, I swear, where, somebody, it's like clickbait, does here's how to stop, 90% of your targeting or whatever it was. It was like, something like that. And I'm like, what's this dude talking about? And so I clicked on the video, and his ears, he kind of teases it out a little bit. If you want to stop while you're talking, you're going to watch this video. Here, I'm going to give you the explanation, blah, 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 blah. And it comes down, and his explanation or his solution was, check yourself out and get diagnosed as schizophrenic. And so that was his solution for, the end of your target, because then you're going to get on medication, and all your gang stalking is going to stop, because according to him, well over 75% of the people out there who consider themselves targeted individuals are just schizophrenic, assuming that schizophrenia is just schizophrenia. The guy was an idiot. Okay, I don't have anything against him personally. I think he was probably being malicious, obviously, but he played right into what triggers target individuals, and a lot of that is there to piss you off. A lot of the stuff targets deal with is there to provoke you emotionally. It's to get a response out of you. There's a lot of bait involved in the world that you live in, and it always goes to the emotional manipulation of the victim. But when it comes to the whole mythos of using medication to cure schizophrenia, there is no, unless I'm living in a different world and I've missed, the literature, there is no cure for schizophrenia. And as far as I know, the temporary anesthetization of pharmacological agents may help a little bit temporarily for different things, but not the stuff that target individuals are dealing with. So, it would be similar to what happens to the guy that I've mentioned several times on the channel, who, in my opinion, he is a target individual. In my opinion, he is dealing with something demonic. Okay. But I could be wrong. Maybe he's dealing with V2K. I don't know. But he drinks now every day. Okay. And he tried to go sober for like 3 years or whatever. He got some DUIs and he went to drug court, and he had to, but anyway, he says it's the only time he can get any relief at all. But why? Well, he's anesthetized his brain to the point where he's basically, he's like sleepwalking. But it didn't really stop even, it just, he might get a temporary, relief. But I've got all those videos about, schizophrenia and, the mythos of long-term medication as a solution for mental illness. And it really contradicts the data. Okay. So when somebody does that, it's irritating. That's one of the things that all targets deal with. That's why I put it there. No, you need meds. Because if you took meds, all these things would stop, because it's all just mental illness. And the huge problem is that they're, even if you were, all right, because I've been accused, well, doc, you're playing, some of these people might be crazy and they're not going to get help because you're telling them they're targeting anybody. I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm assuming that what they're telling me is true, first. Second, that even if they were mentally ill, if they are processing the information around them and building their life back, right, taking the building blocks of their life and putting them back together, schizophrenia can actually be healed that way, because it's more of an environmental manufactured dysfunction, that they are dealing with circumstances in their environment that tear apart their life. Okay, and they become dysfunctional. It's just like gangstalking is manufactured mental illness. It is. A lot of the people get into a place where they are suffering from a type of manufactured schizophrenia, because they're reading into things and they're believing things that aren't true, and it makes them look like they've got some type of disease like schizophrenia, but it's just environmental. You hear about targets and their harassment changing, and then it's like, whoa, I'm almost healed. I'm returning back to homeostasis. Oh, here it comes again. Well, that's done by design, because you got acclimated to it. They want to switch up the strategy on you. But getting back to building your life back, putting the building blocks, the foundation of your life together again, and healing. Well, even if you were schizophrenic, the advice that I give people are processing information properly, working on your diet, working on the spiritual aspect of your being, drawing near to God, trying to move towards a place of function, health, and employment, and financial stability. Nobody can get hurt by that. Okay, I'm not telling people to shave their head. I'm not telling people to cover their house in tinfoil. I'm not telling them to eat stuff that's going to suck all the vitamins and nutrients out of their body as a form of hypothetical detox, or cut things on their body out of as if they're implants or something. I'm just telling people, hey, process information, create protocols in your life, and move through your landscape day by day, and just see what's going on around you. Make sure you're not reading into things, because that's what happens to all targets. But the mythos of just taking a pill and fixing has destroyed generations of people. The whole idea of solving mental illness with a pill has created a lot of problems, and I hate it when people do that. But that's one of the things that targets get confronted with. And psychiatry is used against a lot of targets out there. They're all going to be diagnosed the same. You're nuts. You're delusional. You're hallucinating, man. But it's not. It has nothing to do with that. All right. Let's see if I generated any comments through that dissertation. Angels Don't Fall says, what do you think about other targets, what do you think about targets that clearly gang stalk other targets and discredit them? That's true. When targets become gang stalkers, that'd be the topic. That'd be the the title of that book, man. And it happens. Because it's I've talked about this before. One of the mechanisms that is out there that is used not only on targeted individuals, but in society in general, is that people are kept in a state where they are discontent. And, when somebody comes along like a targeted individual, and you have the social dynamics that you do in society, and you have people who are unsatisfied and a little bit on edge, and they need a place to vent. They need a target. It's like the people who persecute targeted individuals. They manufacture an identity and deal with their emotions by venting on you, right? That's one of the things that is used to keep this going. right? It's a type of catalyst, right? And it's just accelerated. And targets who experience harassment, they've got a lot of negative stuff to deal with. They've got a negative, the set of circumstances around them. They've got negative emotions. They've got a sense of injustice. They're dealing with anger, frustration, and everything. And then there's a disagreement in the target or whatever. They feel they're getting compared with somebody they see, and they get into arguments with everybody. And then they try to start a channel or something, and they want to get people informed. And then you got the other catalysts that come along, the other little chain yanking perps that are out there, or people who've been turned into, targeted gang stalkers because they're bitter, and they all start fighting against each other. And there's this little drama game out there. In fact, somebody tried to draw me into a lot of that a while back. I'm like, I'm not going to play that game. And they'll do it. What do you think of this person? This person's come to your channel, and this person did that, and that person did. And I'm like, man, I don't care. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm not trying. I don't got enough bullets to deal with all these people. Okay. And as far as, some kind of drama, I don't get drawn in, but some people need it. They start using it, and they'll start making videos about this. But I don't know about this target. Or this target said something stupid or whatever. Or they'll start trying to cause a fight and draw you into it. That's a good one. Angels don't fall. I don't buy into it, man. And to me, it's one thing, like I said, to be dealing with negative emotions and get sucked into some drama. And it's another thing to all of a sudden develop the identity of a persecutor, which is basically what happens when people become gang stalkers. So it just depends. That could be the way that some of these people are recruited in. And, if nothing else, they're still doing the work for the man, and you don't want to play that game. So they've got them as unpaid agents, because they're doing the work for them now. And they supposedly are targeted individuals, and now they're persecuting other targets. Wrong move. Okay. All right. Yeah, firefighter brings up something important here. Knocking you down, then claiming the fact that you are down is because of your mental incapacity. That is exactly what happens. That's a good point, firefighter. That's exactly what they do. That's the manufactured justification and internalization, gaslighting that is used against targets. They harass somebody. You're freaked out. You're paranoid. You don't know what's going on. You're having problems. They attack the target. They do the food tampering. They put stuff in your food. They break into your house. You get the workplace harassment. You get the neighborhood harassment. You get attacked with street theater. They tamper with your personal property. You get stressed out, and then things happen, and then you're blamed. What the hell's wrong with you? It's not like everybody's attacking you. You're crazy. And they will try to heap it up on your shoulders, man. Yeah. Put on the football, the pads or something, and just let them put it up there, I guess, so that you can just knock it right off. Because, that's one of the things that you have to know as a target is you can do this so long that you can forget how you got the way you are, because it just goes on and on and on and on. And you can be dealing with this stuff for decades, and the reciprocity that comes out of the infiltration into the target's mind and the associations that are created through the traumatic invasion of the psyche of the targeted individual will have that, exponential effect, right? It's like targets say, well, I used to be the life of the party. I used to have a lot of friends. I used to do this, that, and the other. Now I'm agoraphobic. I'm stuck inside my house. People are wondering what's going on. I don't know what it is. I get these claustrophobic reactions. I feel like I can't breathe. I don't trust anybody. It's over. I don't know what's going on. I guess I'm just nuts now. Maybe I was reading into this the other day. I don't know who I could trust. Maybe I am crazy now. But I wasn't crazy before, but maybe they did it. Maybe they succeeded and drive me. Well, no, they didn't. Okay. And I've talked about that before. No matter how far down you get, God can change this around, and he can fix it. And it's just one of those things that you have to see the paper mache that's around you and realize the benefit of what you're dealing with. Okay, but as far as the dysfunction that comes your way, you got to remember how you got the way you are. You got to remember all the things that it took to get you to even be thinking about these things, let alone succumb to the paranoia and dysfunction of the tyranny of your environment, which is really all it is. All the targets out there that are accused of being schizophrenic and crazy and hallucinating, all that, I mean, they've dealt with a lot. They, rather than to be ashamed, rather than to, feel a sense of culpability for their condition, even if they mess up, they should, feel a sense of accomplishment that they're still here and they're still a free moral agent of society. There's a lot of people that don't make it to where you are. There's a lot of people out there that could not handle this stuff. I've heard that from a lot of perps. You play this game long enough and you put up with enough flack and you deflect enough blows come at you, they'll literally respect you because they couldn't do it. The proof that they've conformed and that they're afraid, to join you, even though they kind of probably secretly envy you if they know the truth, is that you're doing something they're unwilling to do. Okay, that I've talked about that when it comes to workplace harassment. You're not going to find a perfect job where you're not going to deal with. If you're a target, chances are you're going to be dealing with it wherever you go. Okay, because I hear a lot of targets do that. Well, you know what, man? I just threw my tools on the ground and left, or I just gave up. And well, I get it, man. I don't blame you. Sometimes you got to leave. Okay, I'm not saying that you just have to be a doormat, but you're not. You also got to realize what's going on and have realistic expectations and know you're going to be dealing with this stuff. And they'll admit it. Now, I couldn't deal with what you're dealing with. If you're out there and you've been doing this, even just for a month or even just a couple of years or whatever, you've gone further than a lot of people. There's a lot of people that might not even make it first, for a couple of days of this stuff. They'd be, a quivering, jellified mass of dysfunction. And a lot of targets out there, that you'll hear comments like, you're too smart or too tough for your own good, because we're just going to keep doing it. Well, bring it, because I'm here for it. I don't have a choice, and later you're not going to have one either. And I'd rather take what you're giving me now than what's coming to you later. Keep that in mind. And that will haunt them forever because it's true. Yeah, Jeremy M says, I've been dealing with the workplace mobbing and harassment for a little over 2 years. It's pretty funny to me now at this point. Well, that's good that you stuck with it, Jeremy. And congratulations, my gratitude. And it's something to say when targets get to the point where they can kind of laugh this stuff off. And I've talked about you will acclimate. Once you realize that there's a motive to all this stuff, and that these people want a reaction, and that you don't want to take them serious. You don't want to, give in to their, theatrical gaslighting and their manufactured justification and their little games. Sometimes they'll act angry, or if that doesn't work, they'll try to be nice to you and get you to care what they think, and then they'll pull the flip on you or whatever. But it's just Jeremy is a good example at this point that you put up with it, you consider the source of what you're dealing with, you don't take it serious. You're not playing into it, and it's comical, because the only way this is going to affect you, as far as that kind of harassment, not everything, some of it's, I'm not saying you shouldn't take it serious, as far as taking steps in your life with the security system and trying to keep yourself safe. You want to do that, don't underestimate it that way. But these people are, they don't know. They're going to know. The truth of the matter is, they're going to find out later what harassment and tyranny is. They think they've got the corner of the market. They're going to find out what it's all about later. And this stuff you're dealing with sucks, but it's not gonna even compare to the tyranny and the unrelenting wrath of God that's going to come upon people that don't repent and treat other people the way they want to be treated. It's all getting added up. I've talked about that before. But the kingdom of darkness is killing two birds with one stone. They come after you. They use their little flesh puppets and they condemn them in the process. It's really all it amounts to. Nobody gets away unless they resist. Jeremy says he wears his Bluetooth headphones while at work. And he literally ignored his manager and she just walked away. Lol. Yeah, that's funny. The headphones work. If you can't hear them, you can't hear them. Or you don't pay attention to them, you can't hurt you. I've told that to a lot of targets. You don't walk around looking for this stuff. Keep your eyes looking straight ahead, right? Don't listen to what anybody else is saying. If you got to put headphones on, do it. And just go through your day. And you'd be surprised how many of these people you will piss off because they need a reaction. They need you to see what they're doing. They want you to be caught up in their drama. If you don't look, if you're not paying attention, right? Yeah, you win because it's you. I've done that before where I wasn't even paying attention. Even in my early experience where I used to be, sensitized and kind of looking around for this stuff, there was times where I was just so caught up at work or doing something that I didn't know I was being targeted. And I didn't know the conversations around me were, direct to combos. And then people would say, something, oh, man, you don't care about anything. I was like, what are you talking about? That person was saying this stuff and looking at you and laughing. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't even notice. Huh? Okay, whatever. But yeah, they hate that. You really want to frustrate the enemy. You don't give in to what they're doing. Looks like Sons of Thunder is dealing with some pretty heavy stalking. Well, you know what that means? That means that you're coming up on a time of refreshment eventually. Look forward to that. And I just pray in the name of the Lord Jesus that it comes soon and that you would experience the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. Yeah, Jeremy says they are the ones that end up looking stupid and crazy when they don't get a reaction. That is true. That is absolutely true. Yep, and they've got to internalize that because there is no excuse for that. It's one thing for a target to get harassed and pushed and poked and squeezed and then screw up. It's another thing for these guys to just look like idiots. So there is no excuse for it. Nobody's doing anything to them. Yeah, firefighter says he puts on his headphones and the audio Bible. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's an excellent idea. That's the best one I've heard yet. I do that. I don't have headphones. Normally they don't come up to me. If there's blood in the water, if I gotta, get attacked from all sides, they might dare come up and start messing with me. But at this point, most of them, they won't even think about it. You get one of those little young newbies or something that just doesn't know, or they're just being demonically manipulated, they'll come up and say something. But, I've talked about that too. If you get obvious harassment, count it as a blessing because this stuff goes on for years and decades. And like I said earlier, you can get to the point where you forget how you got the way you are. And the whole thing turns into such a fuster cluck of different methods and games that, you get into a place where you get worked up and you don't even know why. It's like I was talking about earlier when I was starting to think about having a beer. You get caught up and it's just, you get wound up real slow. You can start slow. And by the end of the day, you're thinking about things, you're distracted, you're going off in different directions that are unproductive. And you can find yourself being manipulated. And it has reciprocity. It might start slow, You can deal with a lot of invisible stuff. There's demonic stuff. There's things that are technological. There's just the environment that you're anticipating that you live in. And it's easy to get worked up. Well, Nicholas says that he still has the V2K, but the music distracts him from the V2K. Well, that works too. Ernie, welcome to the live stream. And Ernie says it's a planned agenda. It is. It is. There's a lot of stuff that targets deal with that is literally set up, and I've talked about that in a lot of different aspects. When targets deal with that higher form of harassment where they are dealing with things that seem to be waiting for them, or things that are clairvoyant, where people know things or seem to be reading their mind, or are waiting for them in different geographical locations, or say something that involves a dream that they're going to have or they have had, or things that no one should know about. When targets go on the run, they go out in the country, they go out in the middle of nowhere, and still somehow these people know what they're doing, and they claim they can see through your eyes, or they can read your mind, or what. There is a setup, okay? One of the ways that some of that could happen too, like I said, involves the spiritual dimension and the fact that they are outside of space-time, and they are allowed to test, mankind and so on and so forth, and they have a plan. You get into the soothsayers and the tarot cards and the occult and the secret societies and the hidden knowledge of the secret wisdom. They're dealing with the same thing. They're just, getting it in a different way, where they're bewitched by it, and they believe in that destiny philosophy, and they're taken captive, and they are taken away into a delusion. But targets are just attacked in a different way, where it's more of an environmental tyranny to freak them out, right? So one of the ways that possibly you could be dealing with, think about it this way. We'll just say that you're watching a video or whatever, and it was a live stream, or you watch this after. If you're watching this after the live stream or whatever, just pretend that you could watch that in advance and then actually go back in time and interact with me in the live stream. Okay, and we'll say I'm stammering around for a word and I can't figure out what it is. I'll say, "What is that?" That's right. That's called V2K or whatever, right? But if you could do that, and you go back in time and I'm sitting there stammering, "Oh, I can't remember what that word is," and you're, "Oh yeah, that's right," and you could literally make it look like you were reading my mind, right? Because you already know what's going to happen. Okay, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going on. I'm just saying, and as far as foreknowledge and so on and so forth, or when you deal with the divine counsel in the Bible, or when you deal with possible time dilation or a window into the future, 20, 40 years or whatever. A lot of people talk about that. Or some people will even say that some of that technology for manipulating space-time has come from different I don't know. A lot of people will talk about different ways that technology gets to humans. I've talked about some of that stuff involved in the Third Reich, and how now that's moved into what we've got through Operation Paperclip and the Nazi scientists and all that. We talked about that a little earlier. But ultimately, in my opinion, that comes from the spiritual dimension. So exactly what they're doing, we don't know. But, we do know that there's a spiritual foundation to this. And when you deal with that kind of tyranny, there's a lot of ways that can happen. But it is set up in advance. And I've seen that kind of thing. Targets will deal with that, comments, or, that foreshadow stage, or that setup that can just all of a sudden start to make sense later in their life. I used to deal with all kinds of comments. Well, we know you're going to be crazy, and that'll be for later. Or, you might want to watch out for this person. And then 10, 20, 30 years later, that person attacks me. And, you remember all these little things that are said to you, right? And it's either meant to make you think you're crazy. If they can drive you nuts enough to where you think you're just, dreaming all this, they'll try to get you to believe that. But I've had that kind of thing happen, and a lot of targets will deal with that kind of stuff. I used to deal with that all the time. A lot of targets will talk about witchcraft or different things that involve the occult, or people that are, telling them what they're thinking or what they're going to be doing or things like that. I've had a lot of that kind of thing happen, And I remember one time I got in a car accident, and right before the car accident happened, I was in a grocery store, and this guy came up to me that I'd never met in a town that I'd never been, and he's because it was a vehicle that my dad bought me, and it wasn't that long after my dad bought it for me, and he said he came up to me and he said, "Oh yeah, how you doing, buddy? Tell your dad I said hi." And he said something. He goes, "Yeah, that's a nice truck he got you there." And I had no idea who this guy was. And I ended up leaving the store. We went up to this house. Me and this guy, I'd met him, probably about a day before that. And it was a place up off a hill where you had this private drive. And as we were trying to back down, out of there and to leave, the truck rolled over and rolled down the private drive. It's, just totaled it, man, smashed it all up. It was like 20 minutes before we went up there. I've never seen the guy again. I have no idea who he was. Weird stuff like that. Now, how do you explain that? You tell somebody something like that, they're either going to believe it or they're not. But I guarantee it was true. I've had a lot of weird stuff like that happen to me. I had a girlfriend that I used to date that told me that I was going to have a particular colored vehicle, particular make and model, and 5 years later, it was given to me as a gift from somebody that would have never known who they were. How do you explain that? I mean, there's all kinds of things that targets deal with, and it's a complete setup. And the other thing, they want you to believe something that's not true, or they want you to just look crazy, But they set up targets, and even when it comes to the human collusion, they will do that too. I've talked about that, where you have the possibility of using human resources and money and stuff like that to just set someone up. You could do it. You could watch them. You could get information on them. You could hack their phone, so on and so forth. Put cameras and then just play games with them. Send the random jogger by them that just happens to know stuff. The unorthodox attacker in the grocery store that knows that they're going to be going on a date with their significant other and where they're going, making a little directed conversation about it or whatever, and laughing and looking at you and then walking away. And the target's like, my gosh, who are these people? And it seems like it's everywhere. People messing with them in traffic, at all the stores and stuff like that where they typically go. They gave somebody $500 and just told them to say something to you and just laugh, and they don't even know. And the target starts reading into everything. There's a lot of ways that this stuff could work. It's always a setup. Oh, hi, Targeted Patton. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, I mentioned that, the tarot card thing. And I know you've talked about that before, Targeted Patton. And Targeted Patton asked me a question. Do you think that tarot card readers are being influenced by what is known as familiar spirit? Yeah, that's a lot of people will put it in that category. And that goes into the occult, where, the familiars are a lot of different things when you get into witchcraft. Where you even have animals as these oikatarians that'll be possessed by demons or whatever, a lot of stuff going. But getting to your question, it's demonic, whether it's familiar spirits or unclean spirits or whatever. A lot of people will get into that. The thing about the spiritual dimension is there is a diversity, but we know that from Deuteronomy that God will allow a false prophet, which is basically the same thing as what you're talking about, Targeted Patton. The things that they will say or prophesy, he will allow them to come to pass to test people. Okay. So, like I said, there's a lot of different options for how that knowledge gets to the kingdom of darkness. It could be given to them, through the divine counsel or something, as a way to test men, or use those things as a type of delusion to deceive people, because they refuse to love the truth, right? The truth. They're getting into witchcraft, they're getting into tarot cards, they're looking into horoscopes, or they're getting into the secret society, mythos of polytheism or whatever, and they're gonna see that kind of thing, and it's gonna freak them out. They're gonna be, they're gonna be believers, right? A wicked generation and people ask for a sign and a wonder because the truth is right in front of you, right? The biblical truth is there. It's like evolution and stuff like that. I can see how people can get confused, but what's more plausible when you look at all the inconsistencies in evolution and creation? To me, speaks of a creator, right? And so they're without excuse. As far as the delusions, well, there's a lot of them. And when you deal with that type of clairvoyant information that comes from the kingdom of darkness, that's a very strong delusion. Okay, and people are like, "Wow, this is true. It's got to be. Look, it happened exactly as that person said. I want to know what else the spirits are gonna, what else is gonna happen. I want to know my future. I want to know this. I want to know that." And people will get sucked in. Okay, but how do they get the information? I don't know. Maybe they do have a dimensional perspective, a window into the future. Maybe it's more of a divine manipulation, like with astrology, where they have things kind of mapped out. But the point is that it is there to deceive people, and it is information that is outside of space time. However, it is coming at the individuals it is given to. So, yep, that's what's going on. It's demonic. Whether it's the astrology stuff, the tarot cards, the soothsaying. It's like the incident of Paul and Silas in Philippi, where the prophetess followed him around for 3 days, and then Paul cast the demon out of her, and she was doing that stuff in that area for quite a while. Everybody was convinced that she was a type of prophetess or prophet. And after the demon was cast out of her, after that connection to the spiritual dimension was gone, she could not tell the future anymore. And that's why they got thrown in prison. Pretty interesting. But yeah, then I've seen it. So it's like I said, when targets are dealing with some of this clairvoyant stuff or some of the things that people know about you, it doesn't always mean that they've got a camera in your bathroom, or that they're literally watching you or literally reading your mind. Some of that stuff is coming from the spiritual dimension, and it is just coming through the puppet. It's coming through the individual that you're dealing with, the little flesh puppet that's talking to you. You're within earshot. They're going to use the people to attack you, and it's like with Targeted Pat and talking about tarot cards. They're attacking those people in a different way. And a lot of people that get into witchcraft and stuff like that, it's fun, it's interesting, it's exciting. And then they start dealing with the negative stuff. And they start having panic attacks, or they start dealing with sleep paralysis, or they start dealing with subtle forms of gangstalking or whatever. And it just explodes on them. Or they go crazy, or they start hearing voices, or they start getting into other things where they get deeper into it and end up like Aleister Crowley, right? And that guy had some real scary vices in his life, because he wasn't being driven crazy or gang stalked, but he got into a place where he was very depraved, and I guarantee you he regrets it now. Okay, so yeah, that's a big 10-4 on that one, Targeted Patton. Okay. Okay. Well, guys, it's getting pretty late here, and I gotta let you go. Maybe we'll do another live stream tomorrow. You never know. Sometimes I even come on in the middle of the night. You just never know. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming on here and acting like an adult. And I did kick somebody out earlier before Nicholas showed up. Maybe I made a mistake on that one. I don't know. I apologize if I did. But I try to keep this as safe for people as possible. And I like, I like people to just get along. Is this too much to ask? I don't think it is. And targets deal with enough tyranny. We don't want it on here. So I'd like to, thank everybody for acting like an adult. And I appreciate all the questions. If you guys have anything you want me to get to in a video or a future live stream, put it in the comments. And also, for some reason, on the GoFundMe thing, it hasn't been sending me notifications. And I see people have donated to the channel, and I'm not trying to be ungrateful. So I had no idea. So I'd like to thank anybody who's done that. God bless you. Much needed and much appreciated. And I'd also like to thank everybody for prayers. My hernia is doing a lot better. I haven't had any flat tires in a while. God bless. Thank God. Knock on wood. No, I don't do that. You know, knock on wood. Thank you, Jesus. And you know, if you have any prayer requests, put it up there, and I'll lift you up in a live stream so we can all pray for you, because that's important. Prayer works. And at the end of the day, the benefit to gangstalking and dealing with this malevolent evil that's around you is to realize where you are and where we're all headed. And we all have a responsibility to draw near to Christ and to receive the gospel. And this whole thing can turn into something positive. Okay. You know what? You know, it's like I said at the beginning of the live stream. What would have happened to me if everything would have been easy and I never would experience this? Might have been a lot worse. In fact, I think it would have been. Maybe this is the only way. Guys, God bless. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.